Hello and welcome to the Giants of Backlog. This week, I'll be your host, and I'm joined by the other Giants. For those of you who've forgotten, I'm Paul.
I'm Alec.
John.
Jay.
This week, we're going to be discussing my pick, Orcs Must Die. Orcs Must Die is a tower defense game with a unique twist. It puts the player directly into the action, so it's like a subgenre, an action tower defense game. Before we dive into Orcs Must Die, I just wanted to catch up with the other Giants on what they've been playing these last few weeks.
It's been a very long 2 weeks. So I've played a lot in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, maybe just highlight like 1 or 2 games.
I'll finish at the end. I want you guys to talk about what you guys, because I know what you guys have been playing. I gotta think on mine a little more.
Okay. I've decided to get back into New World, and it's been a lot of fun. We got to max level at launch and then kind of fell off with the grind. So now we're grinding up our gear score. There's a new expansion coming out next month that might be already out whenever you're listening to this. But that's what we're getting ready for. It's been fun just having a grinding game again. I've also been playing a lot of Shadow of War. I always get it mixed up with Shadow of Mordor.
No, same.
Shadow of War is the second one, I believe. And it's just been a lot of fun. I found out there's another ending after the ending of the game, so that's been cool to go back and see. It's really fun to play with the Nemesis system. I'm shocked that no other games have come out with the Nemesis system. Do you know what the Nemesis system is?
Mm-hmm. I remember you explained it to me once, but you can explain it.
That Wonderworld game, or Wonder Woman game.
Oh, Balan Wonderworld?
Yeah, Monolith.
Yeah,
Wonderland?
it's going to have the Nemesis system.
Yeah.
That's not confirmed, but it's the same developer, so they're hoping they utilize, because it's a great system.
Well,
Yeah.
It's a great one.
what it is it's where any random orc can kill you, and then all of a sudden it has a name and a personality, and it ranks up and it becomes an actual enemy you have to contend with. You can,
Yeah, and they have rankings, right? Like a pyramid of orcdom.
yeah, and they're like just non-scripted stories happen, right? Like,
Yeah, it's awesome.
some guy gets shot in the head, he comes back with metal all over his head.
Yeah, I like
He's like, "You thought you
how
could
you
kill
can.
me?" And he used to have a perk before that said soft-headed dies in one shot to the head, and now he's immune to arrows.
Yeah.
Right. Or
I like the ones where you bite them with the Caragor, and then it's like terrified of Caragors. So like, that's a good one.
Yeah. So there's a lot of funny stuff that happens with that, like just messing around with the orcs. Like they have relationships between themselves too. Like some of them are blood brothers. You kill the blood brother, the other one will come after you. You can, this one guy I killed so many times, he kept coming back. He became deranged and just kept saying, I'm so full, I'm stuffed. That's all I can say. And now he's the war chief of my castle. So it's funny, and the online has been a lot of fun too. So what you do is you set up your orcs in your castle, and you go online and you can attack other castles.
Fun.
So you set up your defense, and you can see like a log on who fails against your defense.
Yeah.
It's like a tower.
That's pretty
defense.
nice. Yeah, and it doesn't affect your game, right? It's just a little thing.
And
That's fun.
And I use it a lot because you can go online and people have good orcs in their defenses, and you can recruit them. So I use it a good way to
that's a
like
good idea.
bolster my own defenses.
Can you tell the story you told me earlier
Oh, which one?
about your grind to the level up your one orc that you had such pride in?
I made this guy who was a complete badass.
Can you give the name? I want to know the name.
It was like Urshaka, the something.
Relentless. Let's just go with
Blacktooth,
that.
Relentless, something like that. But he had a flamethrower and a fire weapon, and I got him like perfect perks where he has thick skin and doesn't take damage from fire. So he was just this unkillable tank that did so much fire damage, and
You leveled him up to max level.
yeah, I leveled him up to max level, and he just was a grunt with no perks, and I like just used my in-game resources to roll good perks on him. And he was going to be my fearless leader and my bodyguard. And I called him in, and he just betrays me.
He's like, thanks for leveling me up.
Yeah, he comes in, he's like, I've grown a lot stronger since I joined up with you. And now I'm going to repay you by you dying. Fuck you guys. So then I have to fight him, and I like kept almost dying. I had to call in some other orcs to help me out. And I finally got him down and tried to bring him back to my side. And he says, Iron Will. He said, I'll never join you again. And so I have to shame him, because when you shame him, there's a chance to remove the Iron Will. And so I shamed him all the way down from level 60 to level 36. I had to keep on fighting him. It shames 5 levels minus at a time. So it was a whole, like, this was happening at like 11. I was like, I'm going to set up my good guy, and then I'm going to get off. And then he betrayed me, and I was like, I can't get off till I get him back. So I stayed up till like 1 a.m. on a weeknight trying to get this guy back. I finally do, and he's super weak. And so now I did already spend a lot of resources to get him back to max level.
And then he betrays you again.
I'm being careful to keep him in the war chief spot, because I think he's less likely to betray me if he's got power.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a lot of fun emerging storylines like that. There's too many to count of like somebody showing up that you killed, and you're like, oh yeah, it's that guy. He's like, you think you got me? Think again. So
yeah, there was one time where I killed a guy like 6 times, and he's just like completely metal, but it's like walking around like completely metal. It's like and it's like his name is like the Deathless or whatever.
Oshkoff, the Deathless.
Yeah. He's just like, you thought you got me the last time with fire, but check me out now.
Yeah. There's an achievement I'm trying to get. It's stuff where you let an orc kill you 3 times.
Yeah, I did that one.
Then you bring him to your side.
Yep.
It's tough because your other followers will save your life and one shot kill the person trying to kill you. So I've been trying to get that one. Plus, they get super powerful from killing you so many times.
Yeah, they level up a full rank every time, pretty much.
Yeah, I haven't played Shadow of War, but I played Mordor.
Yeah.
The mechanic I really liked was when you would die, time would pass in the game, and it would like simulate the battles between the orcs, and you would watch it before you respawn. And
Yeah, so you know like how everyone's doing.
Yeah, who's rising through the ranks. So it was pretty cool.
I just think it's really cool that some random, like, unnamed slave can kill you and then gets promoted to war chief eventually.
What about you, John?
Like Jay said, New World has been the game I've been playing the most lately. Just grinding it every day. And then when Jay's not on, just a random assortment of multiplayer games. Valorant, Rocket League, online poker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys hear that Twitch is going to ban gambling?
Ooh.
But only some gambling. Only slots and dice games.
But not gotcha.
Not gacha
Yes.
and not poker.
What's gotcha?
It's the game mechanic where you roll for
It's
like
like
items
literally a
or
loot box.
characters. It's a loot box
So-
with more like
Counter-Strike?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Genshin Impact was the like
PUBG.
was the gotcha
Yeah.
model. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's bigger in Japan. They're like vending machines where you'll pay and you'll get a random
Hope
thing.
you get a rare item.
Yeah.
They'll give you like a code that you can plug into your game. Like there's Genshin
No,
Impact
it's like-
vending machines.
It might be.
Cool.
It might be.
Yeah, it's
Very
cool.
They got vending machines for everything.
Put in $5 and then it spins and it lands on an item and then it pops out of the machine. And you just hope it's a good one. It's a real IRL loot box.
Yep.
Oh.
But it's not a loot box because you can't use that term.
Yeah. Loot box is banned.
Why?
There was some lawsuit against loot boxes a while ago. I don't know.
Yeah,
if
And they
that's
didn't
turned out.
ban the concept, they banned the word.
They can't, they banned the word. So now
Yeah.
it's like surprise mechanic.
Yeah, surprise chest.
Yeah.
Instead of a loot box, it's a treasure chest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been playing. I don't know if it was in the last 2 weeks, but I really liked Escape Academy. I haven't finished a lot of games, but yeah, I think that was in this period of time, right, that we got into Escape Academy. So we should definitely. We might have a full episode about that in general, but that's like goatee
They're
material.
coming out with the expansion pretty soon.
Oh yeah,
And in fall,
I'm gonna do it.
and it's gonna be if they want to make a real bid at Goaty.
yeah.
Big.
See, I liked it because it was like some of the puzzles were too hard for my dumb idiot brain, and so they had the hint mechanic where I didn't rely on it until I needed to, but sometimes I was like wandering around for like 10 minutes and I'm like, what the heck am I even supposed to be looking for?
Where Jay and I played it, and that never happened to us once.
Yeah, because you guys are a lot smarter than me.
And you have two heads, right? Two screens.
What? I only have one head.
Well,
Last
you
I
play
checked.
alone?
Yeah, I played alone.
So yeah.
Oh, you guys were playing together. Okay.
Yeah,
play
we co-opted it.
Oh, that sounds fun.
It was fun.
Yeah, so I played that, and then I got back into Elden Ring with my brother-in-law because I put that down after 80 hours or so in the first one. I got to the final area.
The mountains.
Yep. And then I put it down. So I picked it back up there, and now I'm at the final boss, level 150. Still can't freaking beat that thing.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
There,
So-
I will say, like, I'm not going to spoil anything, but there is an optional boss who I think the consensus, and I agree with this, is that he's harder than the final boss.
He or she.
She's harder
Yeah.
than the final boss.
And I actually got to like that point as well. Like I'm right outside their door, and I never even took them on. I was
Yeah.
like, I'm not even gonna bother. But
I fought her before the final boss, and I had to respec my build like 4 or 5 times before I was like, okay, now I do enough damage and can take enough damage to win.
yeah, no, I did the quest line to get like the item I wanted for my build, and then I'm still not.
I would say that optional boss, is like the second or third hardest boss I've ever played in a Souls game.
Yeah. So here's the thing about the final boss is it's a 2-wave boss, right? I'm not going to get into any spoilers, but I complete the first wave in about 15 seconds because of how powerful my build is with fire magic.
Yeah.
Like I did a full fire build, and I'll just like fucking take out 3/4 of his health in one blast and then do another one and he's done. But it's always that second one that I either like run out of potions or
Yeah.
my summon gets killed and then he targets me. So
Yeah, it's a weird boss. The second phase is a weird boss
Mhm.
fight. I remember struggling with it too for like an hour.
yeah, I get it down to like that much, like a little sliver, and then I'm like,
I
But anyway, that's my Elden Ring experience at this point.
Yeah, I want to do another. I want to do a PlayStation playthrough. I played on PC.
Well, when you get to the final boss, let me know. I'll summon you in. And
I'm gonna do
we can actually.
no spirit summons playthrough on it.
Okay.
So I use the Mimic tier in my playthrough on PC, and it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, I did Mimic tier. That's well.
Go through now that I know all the boss patterns and just go in with no summons.
So yeah, those are the big two for me. That's about it for me.
Yeah, and the game I've been playing that I wanted to shout out was Neon White. So that game came out earlier this year.
Oh, I did have one more one. But continue.
I watched Donkey's video on it, and I was like, I don't know if this really sounds like something for me. It's a single player FPS speedrunning game, and it's like, it seems pretty low budget to me. Like the levels all kind of look samey, and it's kind of not a lot of color, but man, it is so much fun to just go through these levels and figure out how to do it faster, how to do it better. And I've aced every level. Because like you get based on your time, it's like bronze, silver, gold, ace, which is like a blue trophy. I recently found out there's a secret ace trophy, so you can do it even faster, and you can get a red medal. So now I've started to go through, and
I did watch the speed run of Neon White. That was my extent into going into it. It seems like it's fun and definitely is built towards that speed running. Like I think it's one of the first games that's probably built towards speed running.
Yeah, just
because
levels fast.
Yeah, because a lot of speedrunners pick a game and that's what they speed run, right?
Yeah.
This seems like the other way around, where it's like, if you want to speed run, play this game.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
I mean, so like the enemies are garbage. They die in like 1 or 2 hits.
Yeah.
But it's just so fun to just poke and prod the level and look for weakness or shortcuts to get through it faster. I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
And then so that the gameplay is like first person shooter, but then there's a like visual novel kind of component to it on the side when you go back to the hub world, and it's just like trashy anime cringe humor.
Oh my God.
Like a lot of people have been turned off on it.
Okay, I got 2 games.
But I love it. I just love the cringy dialogue. I'm always into like the trashy cringe, stepsister anime stuff. So
yeah.
It's been a lot of fun.
So thank you for reminding me, Paul, because there are 2 more games that I played, and Jay knows the one I'm about to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You just reminded me, cringy anime visual novel. I gotta give a shout out to Digimon Survive. I don't know how you did it with the critics, but you somehow bamboozled them, but I cannot slog through that game. And I'm the biggest Digimon fan probably of all time. And of all time. Sorry, Jammer, if you're watching this. I know you are. No, I love Digimon, but yeah, it's just too slow a visual novel. And they did warn me during Digicon, which John was so fortunate to attend virtually with us.
Bad show.
Yeah, it was a terrible show.
Bad show.
They said 70-30 visual novel. And at that point, I'm like, oh, this is going to be rough. But yeah.
I counterpicked Digimon Survive, and everything you say, it's like a terrible game. And I'm screwed on it because it still ended up as an 8 out of 10.
78, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Who published that? Toei?
No, well, Toei owns the license, but Bandai.
Oh, Bandai. Okay.
So they got Elden Ring and they got Digimon Survive in terms of budget.
Oh, yeah. Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Digimon Survive is down at the floor.
Yeah, it's just like, let's just throw it. Well, it was only supposed to be like a little project, right? But they're freaking, they go. Anyway.
It's Digimon. Critics had nostalgia for Digimon.
That's what it was.
And they're like, I remember liking Digimon when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Throw an 8 out of 10 on it.
But I don't know how they slogged through this 60 hours of...
They have to play it anyways.
That's me playing.
They liked it because they didn't have game critics like, all I gotta do is sit back and read.
Yeah, read for hours. Yeah, John, you would hate it. You're never playing this game. I'm gonna pick it next.
Please.
My next pick Digimonster? No. I thought about it, if you remember. Yeah, I thought about it once.
Game for me.
Yeah, I know.
It's a full price game, right?
Yeah, no, I bought it full
game.
price. I mean, I'm
What's
supporting.
that mean, $60?
$60
Yeah.
game. Well, I don't know. A little gray these days, but
Yeah.
$60 game.
It was. I bought it on Switch so that I could do it
70.
like portable because I was like,
Which
that's the
makes
perfect
sense.
environment for a visual novel.
Inflation.
But I just can't get through it.
$60.
It's like the visual novel would have been good if you cut out 60% of the content. Like a lot of the filler lines in there are just not needed. But anyway, that's my rant on Digimon Survive. The second game I remember playing, and Jay also knows this one, which is probably on the opposite end of the spectrum of the greatest game of all time. I'm gonna let Jay reveal what it is.
We played My Hero Academia once.
Ultra Rumble.
Ultra Rumble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a battle royale, yet another one, but it's honestly one of the best battle royales I've played.
And Gradle is a battle royale expert.
Exactly.
On a sword.
Hey,
Good say.
you should have seen me. I was doing well.
We won some games.
Yeah, we won 2 or 3, and I got max rank.
So
It was
we
crazy.
played basically a whole Saturday at Gradle's house during the beta,
Yeah.
closed beta, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was
Well, yeah, because I had gotten the email because I had signed up for it like when they announced it, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll sign up. And then they announced the beta codes. I was like, oh, you guys should get in on this. And apparently it was pretty exclusive.
Yeah, I signed up too, but you had to have signed up before I signed
Yeah.
up to get in. I also was interested in checking it out. But
So what's it like?
So
yeah, is it a 3D game?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's completely 3D, but it has the anime art style, right?
It's third person. Each character is a character from the show. In the show, everybody has superpowers, so each of them have abilities that are unique to their character, right? So Gradle's main was All Might, right? Which was a tank class. In the show, he's just the strongest character in the universe, so he goes in and he does like a punch.
Yeah, he punches and then it generates like a whirlwind in front of him, and then he does a whirlwind attack himself where you can then move the tornado and like suck up people and everything. So yeah, he's charge in, like get in there, do your punches. He does the from the anime. He'll do one punch and then he'll do a series of like ba 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 ba. It's awesome. And then yeah, Jay's character was I'll introduce Jay's character and you can describe it, was Dabi, who is a fire user, and he's a villain, and he is of the technical class, so you have to have some like skill in his mechanics in order to use him. And there's like 2 or 3 technical people in the beta that were in there. But go ahead and describe what Dabi can do.
He can lay down little traps where if they walk into it, they get kind of stunned for a second and take damage. He can put down a circle that will block projectiles from coming in.
Yeah,
But you can shoot out from there, and if they're standing in it, they take damage.
yeah, it's a like hard DPS like character. And I remember like me being the charge in, I would die, and then Jay would be playing for another 5 minutes after on our team, and he would be like laying his traps in like the bushes, and then like he'd poke his head out and hit someone and then run back through the bushes so that they would trigger him, and then just like slowly like die over time.
I got a lot of kills that way.
So is this going to be our new game when it comes out?
Oh, for
Yeah,
sure.
It's teams of 3, so it's
Yeah.
kind of perfect.
Do you think somebody like John, who hasn't watched the show, would enjoy it?
Absolutely. I feel like you don't really even need to like the characters in order to like get your main.
So the gameplay stands on it.
Yeah, and it's very well balanced already for a beta, I would say. Like I didn't feel overpowered as All Might, and like I didn't feel like any one specific character was overly weak either. Like,
Are there other hero battle royales out there? Because there's a lot of shooter battle
this
royales.
Super people.
Yeah. Oh.
yeah, and they just released Rumbleverse, which is like the wrestling one.
Super People is a crazy game. It's basically they imported PUBG and then added superpowers to the characters.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of that game. Sounds cool.
And,
Dean's playing a ton of it.
nice. Yeah, we'll have to check that out too. But I'm a big fan of My Hero Academia, so Bandai, please release that ASAP. Like I'll play it for days. It's ready.
Does
yeah.
it have a date?
No. No. It was clunky, and it's like it did its gotcha system and everything. Like you could see what it was trying to do. Yeah, it was free to play. I think
It was
so.
all cosmetics, though.
Yeah.
Gotcha system.
Yeah. Exactly. That's how you do it. And they were cool cosmetics too. Like you got the Dobby 3-star, which was the like formal suit. Yeah.
And people enjoy that stuff, right? People
Yeah.
will buy that stuff.
They love
They
the
can get their money
cosmetics.
out of that.
Yeah.
And you can spend what you want to spend on the game.
Exactly.
Making money off the whales just make the free part of the game enjoyable for everybody.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of Spellbreak when we played that when it first came out.
Yeah.
And like,
I didn't know you guys ever played that game.
yeah, no, we got into it for a solid 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what it reminded me of, and the fact that it's a lot of close range combat. And that's what separates it from like the other battle royales is it's not just, snipe and shoot or take advantage of the environment completely. You can obviously like Jay does with laying his traps and everything, but a lot of it's like, all right, get your team together. You're going to want to balance your own team so that it's not all, and the resources you're fighting for are your ability upgrades. That's the other thing. So if you have a team of, I played one team of 3 tanks and they're all the yellow skills. And so we're all competing over the same skill within our own team, which is obviously not economical.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it's a really good game, really simple, to be honest, and it works.
Well, those games all sound like a lot of fun, and I'll have to check at least Escape Academy, maybe some of the other ones out. But we're here to talk about Orcs Must Die. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, I wrote down a quote from like the opening cutscene in this game. I've killed thousands of orcs fighting for the order and defended dozens of rifts, and this is how it ends. So the game opens with that cutscene of this old man saying that, and how he slipped on a puddle of blood and he fell off a ledge and he died, and now it's up to his apprentice, who's a terrible student, to defend the world. So, Orcs Must Die, developed and published by Robot Entertainment. It was released for Xbox Live, Arcade, and PC in October of 2011. It's a tower defense game that puts the player directly into the action. So, I haven't played many tower defense games in a few years, really since Bloons and Plants vs. Zombies.
I was going to give a shout out to that for sure.
Yeah. So I was looking to check out another one that's more recent, and I was looking at Orcs Must Die 3, and I wondered, like, I should start with Orcs Must Die 1. So I thought it looked pretty cool because of the unique twist where you're playing as a third-person playable character, and you have a crossbow, and you're interacting with the horde of enemies, in addition to all the traps and other stuff that you place. So the objective of the game is you have to defend these rifts from the horde of orcs that are assaulting them by placing traps, using unique weapons, spells, and upgrades from the Spirit Weavers. So it's a full 3D game, which is a unique take on the tower defense genre, I thought. You run, you can sprint, you can jump, you can use the environment. The one thing though, there's no multiplayer. This is single player only, and that was one of my gripes with the game. Is I thought a co-op mode would be so much fun. But anyways, the main campaign consists of 24 levels, and there are 3 difficulty modes: Apprentice, Easy Mode, War Mage, Normal Mode, and then Nightmare Mode, which you have to unlock, which is the hard mode. So that's kind of the overview of the game. Any comments before I get into kind of the story and then the gameplay, guys?
Yeah, I got a couple.
Okay, let's hear it.
First off, there's not a lot of spoilers in this game, but if you're worried about Orcs Must Die 1 spoilers, go play the game and come back.
We'll be spoiling a lot of strategy elements if you want to steal our 6 strats.
Yeah. Secondly, talking about this game just awakened like a dormant memory in my mind. Back probably like 6-7 years ago, there was a game for free on Xbox Gold, and it was Van Helsing licensed game that was kind of like this, like a tower defense, but it was like top down, and you can control the character top down, and that wasn't very good, but it awakened that memory in my mind that oh yeah, there's other tower defense games that
with a playable character.
Yeah, I looked it up before this episode because I really like this game, and I was looking for if there's any other similar ones. A lot of people were saying a game called Sanctum, and like it seems like a relatively untapped genre for how much the casual gamer loves tower defense.
Yeah. Any other thoughts beyond or out?
My notes are all on my phone, but I will say that I want to give the shout out to balloons because that was like my staple of tower defense back in middle school on the like computer lab computers, right? Like that's what we did, was play balloons.
Yeah.
Every single kid did. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
So yeah, this like awakened that memory of tower defense for me, and playing this as a playable character, I definitely enjoyed it the most, and I really like this game. We'll definitely dive more into it in the in the gameplay, but I definitely like this game because like it really is customizable to your own play style.
Yeah.
Like there's so many skill trees. There's 3 main skill trees, right, that you can invest in, and then that coincide with all the different traps that you can lay out. And so you could be one man tank the entire orc army if you wanted. Not that I'm excited to see what you guys did as we get into it, but yeah, you could do that, or you could stand by and let your traps take care of it, stand by, let your minions take care of it. And so I really appreciated that this game took into consideration so many different play styles.
Yeah, it seems like a lot more casual of a game than what we've been playing recently.
Yeah.
For Giants Backlog. This was a game you could sit there with a beer, knock out a couple levels.
Yeah.
And it was just a jolly, experience. I mean, except for a couple of times I died, I think I played on normal difficulty.
Yeah.
I think it was like it was enough pushback without becoming super frustrating.
Right. Yeah, there was one level I think I had to turn to apprentice. But overall, I'd say it was pretty well balanced of a game, and I liked that I could see like John's score because it would give me something to like strive for in the next level because he was a few levels ahead of me. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna kick John's ass in this level. Crazy cat, you're going down. So
you probably never did.
I was playing a couple levels today,
like 3 times of the 26. Go check the leaderboard.
I was looking at the leaderboard, and like you can see, there's like a clear difficulty curve because like through the first 12 levels were all like 4 or 5 skulls were like maxing it out. Then by the end, it's like 2 or 3 skulls. Like you can tell it's getting tougher as you progress.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a cool social feature that they added. I like when games do stuff like that.
Yeah, the progression was good overall. I definitely say that. And as they introduce new elements to the game.
But yeah, because with every level you beat, you unlock a new weapon.
Right.
And then like one of my notes is that this game is like highly replayable because you unlock something and now you can go back and play an earlier level, and it's like, oh, this is really going to make this level a breeze now that I can use this trap or this guardian. So like toward the end of the game, to help with the difficulty curve, I did go back and replay like the first 10 or so levels and max out my skulls so I could go in and upgrade some of my traps and my guardians. But yeah, definitely accommodates like a wide variety of play styles, and we'll talk about how when we get into the gameplay.
Yeah, I'm excited for that section of this podcast.
But first,
We'll put a timestamp for you guys.
Yeah, but first I want to spoil the plot. So this game does have a plot. It doesn't get in the way of the gameplay. Very short and sweet. So I think the entire plot is covered in like 3 cutscenes that are about a minute and a half each. So it centers on this faction that's known as the Order. That's the faction that the playable character is part of, and the old man who dies in the beginning that I mentioned earlier. So the Order is responsible for guarding these rifts, which are these magical openings between the human world and the dead world, which is infested with orcs. The Order has created fortresses in the dead world to guard these rifts, and these orcs try to break in, and then members from the Order defend the rifts, and that's kind of the reason for the game. So your character is seemingly the last member of this Order, and you're trying to defend all these rifts until, like, I don't know, halfway through the game, it's revealed that there's a former member of the Order who was banished, who's kind of controlling the mob of orcs to take over the world and take revenge on the Order who banished her. Any thoughts on the stories before I spoil the ending, guys?
I think it's good. It's very good for the game that the banished member of the Order, is one of the world's worst strategists and attacks each rift fortress one at a time. Because we know orcs, there's tons of them. You know, they're expendable. She's not going to run out of them. So it's really nice of her to attack them one at a time, knowing that there's only one person left to defend the rifts.
For 10 waves.
I'm putting my plot armor on, John.
Yeah, I like the story. It was serviceable. It was exactly what the game needed. If there wasn't any kind of story, it would have been kind of disappointing. And if there was too much story, it would have also been disappointing. Yeah. So it was kind of just right. You know, the perfect amount of lore to, you know, put us in the world and give us a reason why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah, serviceable.
And also, like, give our main character a character, right? When I sat down and played the first level of this game, my brother walked into the room and was like, "What are you playing?" And I was like, "Oh, it's a game that Paul picked for our game club. I don't know if I like it yet." And then I beat the level, and the guy starts dancing. My brother and I both crack up. And I was like,
that was like the creation. That was where they got the inspiration for Fortnite dances. That's my theory.
I was like, yeah, I actually like this game now.
All right, so I did want to get your guys' thoughts on the ending. So the game ends, you do the final mission, which we'll talk about in the gameplay. The apprentice makes the decision to close all of the rifts using a spell. But the catch is that the rifts generate the magical energy that allow the spells and the magic and all that stuff. So by closing all the rifts, he ensures that the orcs can no longer invade the human world, but also that there's no more magic. And there's like some dialogue about how the fortresses in the world that are built with magic and the healing magic, that's all going to go away. And it's just going to be, you know, a reduced quality of life for all the people living in the world without the magic. But our playable character makes the decision to close these rifts anyways. So what did you guys think about the ending and the commentary there?
Yeah, I just thought it was funny. I don't remember exactly what they said, but they alluded to just like him being the only one dumb enough to make that decision.
Because he didn't think of the consequences.
Yeah, maybe to give some context, the narration is done by the war mage who died at the beginning, this guy's teacher. And he says like, "Oh, I was a bad teacher, but this guy was the worst possible student." the bottom of the barrel, and he has like a clear bias toward him that kind of bleeds through during his narration.
As John and Jay puts it, he's a dumb idiot.
Yeah, he looks like a dumb idiot too. Like he reminded me of human Shrek from Shrek 2. That's what he looked like.
And I think it kind of like it bleeds into the gameplay too. I mean, with his stupid dances, with like his, I think he says a couple one-liners here and there.
Yeah,
that are just dumb.
Oh yeah.
When you headshot an orc, there's a guitar riff that plays. Like it's just kind of dumb fun, which suits the main character.
yeah.
But my thoughts on, I did like that they tied it all together, being like, did you know that this was your world before this?
Yeah, it's history. It's not.
It's
fiction.
history. It's not fiction. It's
Yeah,
not
it's
fiction.
based on history.
History is subjective. History is subjective, so if that's your interpretation of world events, you might have questioned that.
History subject. Oh, let's get into that.
History's written by the victors,
No.
which the orcs are not.
I
So
wanna
how
talk
would they
about
know?
History. I want to talk about her story.
So she is now trapped in the other realm with all the orcs, and so I can imagine she's pretty bored.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah, that's her story.
She's trapped, and she lost her ability to control the orcs with magic, so she's
Yeah.
probably in trouble.
But I don't want to be trapped alone with a bunch of orcs.
And ogres and gnomes.
Yeah, are we gonna get into that?
Yeah, we'll talk about that with the gameplay, which I think we're ready to dive into.
Timestamp.
Yeah, so I alluded to how enemies come in waves through these levels. There's 24 of them. The basic layout is there's at least one door where enemies come through, and then there's one rift where they're trying to get through. And a lot of the environment's pretty samey. It's always kind of like a castle type environment. So there's some stairs and some stone bridges and stuff like that. At the beginning of each level, you open your spell book and you pick what weapons. You have to use a crossbow every time, no matter what. But
You don't have to.
I think the crossbow, I never.
You have to equip it, but you don't have to use it.
Yeah, you don't have to use it, but you have to have the crossbow equipped. But then you have slots, and you can pick other weapons and traps. And guardians. So there's archer guardians and paladin guardians. And they're just NPCs, and they'll stand and fire arrows.
What I liked about the beginning of each level is before you pick all your stuff, you can run around the map, learn where the entrances are, what you can use.
You got to.
Yeah, so that's
and then strategize.
so I played a couple levels on the nightmare difficulty. In the nightmare difficulty, as soon as you close the book, countdown starts. So there's no breathers either. So there's no unleash the horde. It's just they're coming wave after wave. So it makes it a little more intense. Yeah, so that's my note about the breathers, which helps, especially your first couple times.
Yeah.
I definitely failed a few levels because I was trying to use the same things.
Yeah, I had to change up your strategy a little bit. For the most part, my strategy was I was a necromancer minion hoarder of the highest degree, so I always went full archer, and then when that limit hit, maybe a couple paladins, and then I would do slow traps and push traps and spring traps into the other elements. But other than that, that was my main strategy build for the second half of the game once I got unlocked archers pretty much.
That was pretty fun. I would do spring traps into the grinders.
Yep.
And it's just boing, and then they just get ground up.
It kind of lets you free with your creativity. And it's funny. Well, it's awesome that everything I tried like, will this work? It worked, nothing like I push it back and the trap doesn't trigger, like everything worked as intended. The OP thing was the push.
The wind push.
Yeah. That was
lifesaver.
Never go around without that.
Unless it didn't have. I only use that for ones where it has like the pool of acid.
Yeah.
Because you can push them straight in and you just clear the whole level.
If you have a bunch of traps, you can, once they walk over it, you push them back and they have to walk through it again.
Right.
So that just was so useful.
For traps, yeah.
One minor gripe I had was on Xbox, I think I could only get the 360 version of the game.
Yep.
And the frame rate, like right off the bat, I was like, ouch. But once I got used to it, and didn't bug me at all. I just had to get used to it at the beginning. I don't know how you guys played on PC, right?
Yep.
Was it noticeable lower frame rate, or was it?
I didn't notice anything.
No, it's pretty smooth for me.
60.
Yeah. So I guess for the 360 version, they can't upscale the frame rate.
Yeah, locked 30 probably.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of the weapons, you guys talked about the wind gauntlet. There's also a blade stash, a fireball gauntlet, an acid bomb, a freeze gauntlet, an electrocute gauntlet, and then there's even one that lets you steal health. I didn't really use any weapons. I just had too much fun placing the traps and then just kind of sitting back and watching them run into it. Like I said, I was a big fan of the spring traps and then either the axe wall or the grinder wall later on when I got that. It was fun just sitting back and watching all these orcs run through a choke point and just get annihilated.
I liked how you could stack traps, right? So you could have a choke point that was at a swinging ball from the ceiling with arrow traps on both walls and spike traps on the ground. And then when you get into upgrading the traps, there was ones that make them trigger more often, like can trigger bleed on your orcs. So really, you could take it any direction. I wonder what it would be like doing the whole playthrough using only weapons and no traps. But to me, that would be less fun. Than like being like, oh, I can flip them over here and then they'll have to run this way and then I can flip them back over here and slow them down. And there was the one level where it was like a spiral staircase up where there was just like different tiers where they would get flipped back down to the bottom. They have to keep running back up. So a lot of fun.
Yeah, and surprisingly a decent amount of enemy variety too. So there's orcs, and there's a few different variants of orcs. Some of them have shields, some of them have crossbows, and they shoot flaming arrows at you. And then some of them shoot basic bronze. You have the kobolds, who are like fast enemies, who they can run over ground traps and not trigger them.
Yeah, and electric does well on those ones.
And then there's the ogres, which are like the big tanks who they stun you when they hit you and they just soak up a ton of damage. So the only time I was really doing combat was when there was an ogre.
Yeah.
And I just run out with my crossbow and stun it in the traps and then shoot it to help get its health down.
Yeah, I would invest in the trap upgrade that allows it to work on ogres.
Yeah.
That was a must for every level.
Yeah, so speaking
I
of...
missed that one. I didn't get that.
Yeah, so speaking of the upgrades... Oh, was that like the skull upgrade or was that the weaver thing?
No, that was the weaver.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so you could just flip the orcs into the lava and not have to deal with them.
Yeah, that's what I would do with the ogres. And yeah, there was frost ogres, right? And then regular ogres. And then...
lava or fire ones.
Yeah, fire ones. And then the little flyers and the big flyers.
The air units, which I don't know, I bought archers to deal with the air units. Late in the game I got the auto ballista, that was helpful, but that was like the only reason I was buying archers was if there were air units on that level. You mentioned upgrading though, Gradle. So a mechanic in this game is the Weavers, and there's 3 of them, and you pick which one you want to use at the beginning of the level, and they offer some upgrades that you can spend currency, which is what you use to purchase traps and guardians, to get permanent upgrades for that level, the duration of that level. So, and they do different things. The one I always used was the Steel Weaver because it upgraded your traps and your guardians. And the other ones seemed like they did more so upgrading your weapons, or I don't know, they made you faster and gave you more health, right? I didn't really even read them because I pretty much only used the Steel.
Yeah, that's the only one I used to. And wasn't there a third Weaver towards the end?
Yeah, there were 3 by the end of the game.
Yeah, the one was geared towards your traps and units. The other was geared towards you yourself, and then the third one was like magic, I think.
Yeah, maybe reduce your spell.
Yeah, which was also yourself. So,
which I really like that it uses the same currency that you use to place traps. So it kind of gave you
when do I upgrade resource management?
Pros and cons, right?
Yeah.
So I would always do a full Weaver's upgrade as far as I could at the first level, and then just beat all the orcs without any traps, because the first wave was pretty easy. And then hopefully with that income from the first wave, put it down a couple traps and then build from there.
Well, the first one on Steel was get more money when your traps kill the orcs. So I just always get that one, and then I put down some spikes to kill the basic grunts, and I'd have a ton of money by the second wave, and then I'd fully upgrade my tree from there.
I feel like I played more active than you guys did. I was killing a ton of orcs.
Yeah.
I also didn't read what the Weavers did.
You just never used them?
I got the one, the first one in the tree for the upgrade yourself one, where your crossbow lights stuff on fire. And then that was the only thing I ever got.
Interesting.
I played a lot different than us. I would just automate things so that I wouldn't have to do much.
I didn't use any traps except for the spring and push.
I used a ton of the wall.
I used a lot.
Arrow traps. Yeah. And the slows. That's what I used.
Yeah, I used
until the end of the game. At the end of the game, when you get the mushrooms, those things were so OP.
Yeah.
Just stop playing.
Well, it was kind of broken because you know where the rift is, and I would set up 6 levels of flippers, and it would go flipper, maybe 2 levels of flippers back, and then slow, and then another 2 levels of flippers, so they could never get out of the rift area. And then right under the door I put spikes, so I kept flipping them back onto the spikes, and they just die. That's some dopamine there when you come up with a solution and it works,
Yeah. I basically set it up. I'd just buy out archers to the max.
Yeah, same.
Slow traps and wall traps close to my archers, keep them alive, set them up at one door, and then I would just solo the other door with my fire crossbow until I had money to put traps there. And I did that for most of the game. I used the barricades for a lot of the game, and then the werewolves started coming out, and the ogres started coming out, and they would just destroy the barricades so fast, and you're that's a lot of money I just wasted. Those aren't useful anymore, so I have to figure out different ways to do it. But the last 5 levels of the game, which should be hard once I discovered the mushrooms, that was it, because I just take out all the orcs, let an ogre walk into my mushroom, and now there's an ogre defending here. And then I set up 5 layers of them so that if an orc gets through, whatever can get through, and then the ogre will hit the next layer. And then I think the final level where there's a rift in the very center, maybe one of the last ones, rift in the very center, and there's 4 doors, 5 doors all around coming from every direction. I just have poison mushrooms, the mushrooms all around it, and I'm just not even playing. I'm just letting shit walk into the mushrooms, and they're fighting each other. It's that thing, those are so OP. They break the game, I think.
Yeah, that's why they give them to you last.
Why didn't you use the mushrooms?
Well, they give them to you at the very end, like the last
second to last mission.
Yeah, maybe.
They're the last unlock, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember getting them. I just never used them.
I started using them towards the end.
I would, if I was gonna go back and like max skulls the rest of like the earlier levels to fully upgrade my stuff so I could do Nightmare, I'd use them, but I got them late and then I didn't go back and replay anything. I just played the last couple missions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it wasn't part of my like strategy that I've been using, so I didn't experiment at that point because it was so late in my playthrough.
Yeah, I threw one down on the level you unlocked it. Threw one down like in front of the door, and then I was like, "What the fuck is this even doing?" I couldn't even tell. Like,
was it just one unit?
Just one, yeah. Until it dies, I think, and then it'll reset. But
yeah,
then it fights for you. And
wait, the mushroom like respawns after the unit dies?
No, the mushroom can't mind impact 2 units at once. So when that unit dies, then it can get another unit.
Wait, so the unit dies, and then the mushroom like pops back up and traps another one, or you have to put another mushroom down?
No, you reuse
that does sound OP.
It's
If it was
super OP.
One-time use,
No,
it'd be more
Even
balanced.
one-time use, it would be crazy OP.
Maybe better, though.
Because you can carry it when what walks into it. Like,
You can pick it up.
no, but you can kill everything. You can put really far back toward your rift, kill everything, and then just let the ogre walk, chase you.
Okay.
and then you have an ogre.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty cool.
And you don't have to waste all that time trying to kill an ogre.
Yeah.
Oh man, I never read far enough to get the traps kill ogres thing. I'd kill everything else and there'd just be an ogre there, or maybe couldn't do that. Whenever there was an ogre, I would place 5 barrels of dynamite and blow them up next to it. Every single ogre.
That's how you handle it. It was a lot easier to just flip them into lava. Or keep flipping them back onto spikes and take care of itself.
Automate it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't even. I just knew that weren't vulnerable to traps. I never.
I would spend like.
It was an expensive upgrade, but it was worth it.
I would let everything kill everything else, and then just focus on the ogre. Just be like, shoot head, like, and it would take forever.
Freaking clicking.
Oh, I didn't do that either. I just
I'm getting carpal tunnel from this game.
At the general horde and shooting fish in a barrel. I started headshotting like when I did the first couple of lessons or levels. I was doing that headshotting, but I was like, I can just stand when they all run at me and just hold it down, and it's gonna just hit them.
You can hold it down.
Yeah,
Shut up.
It's not accurate, but when there's just like a wall of them in front of you,
I was clicking this whole time.
Oh, I played on a controller. So, yeah, you just hold down the trigger and it just pew, 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 pew. But you're not headshotting, but it's a machine gun. You're mowing them down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I would do that with a ogre. I'd stun it, and then I just have the trigger held down, and then I'd stun it when it came unstun. Poison bombs were fun too. I messed around a little bit with that at the end. It was cool. I liked the animation. You'd kill orcs with it, and then their body would disintegrate, and you just see their skeleton.
A couple cool combinations I would do was I would put a dynamite barrel on a flipper. So when the first one made it to the flipper and a wall of flippers, they'd all get flung back with the dynamite and it would explode.
Oh wow.
Oh, that's a smart
I
one.
never thought to do that. Anything like that.
You could also use the force push with the dynamite barrels to send it into a big group.
It was the wind.
Wind
conflict.
Force. It was like the force.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's cool. As for gameplay, I think we've touched on everything.
You want to take a beer and bathroom break?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And then we can get into, I've got some thoughts on the difficulty, and then I've got I want to talk about the kind of music, art, voice acting. So I think it's a good segue for a break. So let's do it. Welcome back to the Giants and Backlog podcast. To catch us up, we're talking about Orcs Must Die, in case you guys forgot.
I did, so thank you.
Anyways, I alluded before the break that we're going to just touch on the difficulty. We talked about them earlier. There's 3: easy mode, called Apprentice, normal, which is your War Mage, and then the hard mode, which you have to unlock by beating War Mage, is called Nightmare, I think. Yeah, Nightmare. The biggest differentiators between Nightmare and the other 2 difficulties is you close the spell book, the level starts. You've got to be decisive on what spells and traps you want, and then there's no breaks in between the level. After every wave, the 10-second countdown just starts, and tougher enemies spawn. So instead of like grunt orcs, you'll get shield orcs. Ogres spawn in earlier, and the sorcerer gnomes will come earlier as well, in addition to the ghoul hunters.
Which one are those?
Those are the werewolves that kill your
they'll kill our guardians.
Okay, yeah.
Those guys were so effective. So for a while, I thought, I had an epiphany. I was like, I'm just going to put a barrier and block off my archers. And then they just jump over them. But anyways, so yeah, I played on War Mage, and I failed a few levels, especially on the back 9.
The back 9.
Yeah, the second half, those were tougher. It seemed like the last handful of missions, they were shorter maps, and there weren't as many choke points to choke off, is what I remember.
And there's more doors coming from different directions.
Yeah,
more doors.
The last level, before you beat the campaign, there's 8 doors. They're coming from everywhere. And it's so chaotic, and it's a lot of fun.
And they're pissed.
And I said this earlier, how like when I looked at the leaderboards, I saw like the first 12 levels or so, the first half of the game, we're all like pretty close to the max skulls. And then second half, you can just see like the curve, it ramps up. We're just kind of scraping by. And then the skulls are like a grade for each level. And like you can see in your post-game score, there's like rift points, how many rift points you have left. How long it took you to beat the level, because it's like golf, it's like par. That's why I back 9 reference, but I wasn't parring a lot of levels in the second half. I was taking longer. So I'm curious, really quick, to get off before I get your guys' thoughts on difficulties. With your strategy of like kind of flipping the orcs back onto tracks, were you still parring the levels, or was it taking longer to get through it?
There were a couple levels where it didn't work so well.
Yeah.
You couldn't really pull it off to where nobody will get through. But I think once I figured out a strategy, like I'd either power it or like not make it through, you know?
Yeah.
Because it was like with the way I set it up to automate, it was either the plan worked or it didn't, you know?
Right.
And there wasn't really a in between, because if some orcs were getting through, a lot of orcs were getting
Yeah, exactly. As soon as like 2 came through, it was like done for me, pretty much.
Because of the panic.
Yeah, the panic sets in.
But there were probably a couple levels I was underpowered because they would get through on the early levels before I had the economy build up to get my plan fully working.
Gotcha. How did you find the difficulty curve? Would you agree with my sentiment of how it kind of like did a nice job of ramping up throughout the campaign?
Yeah, I think that it definitely ramped up towards like the 2/3 point was probably the peak of difficulty. And then they gave you the tools to succeed in the last third.
I think they did it perfectly, right? They got it got harder and harder, and then they gave you more and more OP stuff, so that you got both the dopamines, right? The power fantasy of like kicking ass, but then also the power fantasy of barely scraping by.
Yeah, it definitely felt like a little bit of a curve, and then like you hit your peak, and then you're like, oh, I got this and this and this and this and this.
And mushrooms.
Mushrooms, and then when you take those mushrooms and take them back to the beginning, it's just a straight line of mushroom.
There were no levels where I just went like, wow, this is unfair. I didn't get frustrated on any other levels. I would just change my strategy up. I changed the spells or the traps that I was bringing, adjusted.
Yeah.
So it was like you said, curve.
I would fail some just because there were flying enemies and I didn't bring the right tools to deal with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flying enemies were annoying. There was one level where there were so many of the flying enemies that would spit fireballs, and they'd kill me or they'd kill my archers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, the flying enemies were a pain in the butt to deal with. I usually brought an ice gauntlet for those when I saw them that they were coming, because the nice thing was you could see what enemies were coming to from the spell book.
If you froze them,
So-
they like fall and die.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that was the easiest
That's
way
cool.
to deal with them. It's like, I would just freeze, and then you could get them lined up. So I would get like 2 to 3 fall, 2 to 3 fall. So that's how I dealt with
I
them.
probably did that on the level where you got the ice gauntlet, because when I got a new thing, I'd try it to see if I liked it or not. But then I don't know. I don't remember using the ice gauntlet other than maybe that one level when you get it.
Yeah, they're good for orcs too, or the ogres,
Yeah.
because you can freeze them and then beat them up, freeze them.
Yeah, I would do that with the stun on the crossbow, but maybe it probably would have been more effective to freeze them and then lay into them. But it was cool how you unlocked a new thing after every level too. It's, ooh, a new toy to play with. Yeah. All right, so the last thing I've got to talk about is just the soundtrack, the music, the art style, and the voice acting.
Oh, one thing that on the one map with the 2 staircases going up, it was like kind of perfect distance. You could set up launchers that launched both ways.
Mm-hmm.
And so the orcs wouldn't even get to move. They'd just be flying back and forth. And it took I'd just sit there and they'd take just a tiny bit of fall damage each time. And I was like, well, this is going to take forever. So I switched up my strategy after that. I was like, I wonder if I could just fling them back and forth. And yes, you can, but not very efficient.
Unless you stack that zone with archers, 21 archers, just bombarding them.
Yeah, there would be levels where all my archers would die, and the way it worked was they don't respawn until you get to a break where you have to unleash the horde. So all the flying ones would take out all my archers, and I know that it's like shit. Now I'm gonna lose because I have nothing to deal with the next 2 waves before I break, and I don't have enough money to replace them.
Yeah, that was the dangerous part of being a minion farmer for sure.
I'd fail, and then I'd have to just change my strategy up. But
There were a handful of levels I just won by putting a paladin and a shit ton of archers right in front of the rift.
Yeah.
Didn't have to do anything.
Same.
But that just felt kind of cheap and like you weren't really playing the game.
yeah, I got away from that because I felt the same, especially if you upgraded them with the steel weaver, because they'd have more health, they'd regenerate health, and you'd regenerate health.
Fire arrows and
Yeah.
the paladins would stun on hit.
Yeah. But
I like cheesing.
kind of plays into what I thought about the art style of the game. So I really enjoyed the cartoony look, and I'll throw some gameplay in. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see. But the cartoony orcs mixed in with all the violence when you attack the enemies, you can see them bleed, they explode, and they get gibbed, or they burn to death. Or I talked earlier about when you throw an acid bomb, they literally their flesh melts away and you just see their skeleton. So stylistically really cool and satisfying to see that when your traps are working or you're throwing the elemental stuff at them. Really satisfying, and overall it was a really bold, colorful game. The levels are all kind of samey, like I said earlier, but I dug the vibe of the style. do you guys think? Any other comments on?
Yeah, I think it worked really well for the game. Like we said, it's like a silly game almost, not too serious. It's a tower defense at heart. I think the only way it could have been better is if they used like face capture technology for each of the orcs.
Yeah.
And just kidding.
Mocap.
Yeah, that's what I was
Mocap
gonna say. It worked well together because if it was like super realistic and you were blowing off, limbs and it was all bloody and gory and just like a mass of bodies that your traps, it'd be a different kind of game. Now that would probably be a fun game in itself, but this worked all together and it was light, jovial, just killing orcs and having a good time.
Could you imagine if the bodies didn't despawn?
That would be awesome.
It's like piles. That becomes a trap they have to climb over.
I wish they had a mod or a mode
They
to
probably do have
do the like orc carcass mode where there's just a stack of dead bodies.
It'd be fun if it had like a hitbox, so then the orcs had to try to go around the bodies. Because that's like one thing about like the AI of the orcs is they just follow those set paths and they don't diverge. Even though on some levels they could like walk around your trap, but it's just not programmed into their scripts, their AI, whatever you call it. But
I felt like it was because I felt like I would place 2 traps and not have enough for a third, and then they would tend
do
to
that.
funnel.
But there were levels where like, okay, they could just take a left and go to the other side where you don't have traps, but they walk around your traps, but they're going to generally follow like the wind stream that you can see.
Yeah.
They're not going to deviate from that path, but it lended well to the tools, and you knew like you could figure out like, okay, they're not going to do that. I don't have to worry about them going to the other side.
Unless you put barricades, like for the early levels, if you put barricades and blocked off the whole path, it'd go a different way, which was nice because one thing I did for a few of the levels was like if there was a acid pool and like they're all coming out of one door, just set up a couple barricades and just leave this skinny little aisle for them to go through.
Strip,
and then just blow them all into the acid.
Yeah, and the voice acting, while sparse, like cutscenes are voiced and the apprentice will say one-liners and stuff like that. Pretty well done. My favorite part was some of the stuff that the orcs would say when they got close or when they died. It was kind of funny, and they just sound really stupid.
What'd they say?
I can't think of anything off the top.
There was like, this is my last day before retirement.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just,
yeah.
silly stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember that. I'll have to go with it.
Pretty cheesy, but pretty funny. And then the soundtrack. There were like 4 or 5 tracks that would play during the levels, and they loop, but fit the mood really well. Pretty intense. Some guitar riffs in there. Pretty epic.
Yeah, I liked the soundtrack. It was a little repetitive. So I could see the viewpoint where if you didn't like the soundtrack, it would get really annoying. But since I liked it, I thought it added to the overall experience.
It was so like I would listen to podcasts while I would play this too. And I didn't like the music, I still heard it, but good podcast game to listen to something while you're playing it, I thought. The last thing I wanted to touch on before we score this one was just the state of tower defense games right now. I feel like I can't think of any recent examples. Like Orcs Must Die 3 came out a few years ago, but it's a pretty underserved genre, I think. There's probably some mobile games that I just don't know about, because like I think one of the ones I mentioned that I've played a lot when I was younger was the Plants vs. Zombies. I feel like the genre really could. It's got to be bigger on mobile, but it seems like it'd be well suited for mobile.
Yeah, I think it definitely is. I think there's a ton of them on mobile, but
I'd like to see more on console and PC though.
Yeah, I like the interactive ones that, like John doesn't even play tower defense games with traps or and then he just stampedes the orcs and start curb stomps him.
Yeah, it's something I'd like to
Plays
see
this
more
as a
of.
shooter.
Yeah, he's solo, right?
Kinda, yeah.
It's cool that you mentioned earlier Shadow of War, how there's that fortress defense kind of multiplayer thing that they added.
Yeah.
It's cool that they implemented something kind of in the vein of tower defense into that game. Something that maybe other devs will put into their games, hopefully, because I think most people would find it pretty fun.
Well, think about that. In Shadow of War, you play tower defense and tower attack, right?
Yeah.
Like, how cool would it be to have a multiplayer game where one player sets up defenses and the other player has to go through it? I think there's one coming out. What showcase was that at?
I don't know, there have been so many recently.
Yeah.
There's one where like people make all the traps and stuff, and then other people go in, and it's on a note on my desk. Anyway,
No, I think it'd be cool. Yeah, where you can play both sides of it, though, right? You could design the waves of enemies
Co-op
as well. Like you get to
game too.
allocate your resources of how you want to invade like enemies, and then they have their resources to set up their traps, and then
Like Bloons battles.
yeah, like Bloons battles. Was that a real thing?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, see,
Bloons is still like a supported game. It's still out there. When they had a battles mode, which is competitive multiplayer,
yeah,
where you both pop and spend money to send balloons toward the other guy.
I know we played Vermintide together a couple of years ago, which is more of a horde game than a tower defense game, but it's just fun playing with your friends, ripping through mobs, shredding through them. And maybe we'll get into Darktide when that comes out later this year.
not me, but yeah.
Any other thoughts on tower defense? Hopefully we get more of it, I guess is all I really wanted to say.
More of it on PC console, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely, there's probably a ton of apps that are just balloon copies.
Yeah, but hopefully we get more unique games in the vein of Orcs Must Die. All right, let's move into overall feelings on the game. Anything you want to say that maybe we didn't touch on, and let's give our scores. Let's start at the end. Let's start with you, Jay.
Overall, I really liked the game. As I mentioned, it was chill. It was fun. It was a perfect after a long day of work to unwind game. And it also like made you use your brain a bit. Made you think about how you're going to set it up, what traps and skills and configuration you're going to use. So I really enjoyed it. I was wanting to go through on nightmare difficulty before we recorded, didn't get around to it. I still might at some point, but I definitely am going to want to check out Orcs Must Die 3 at some point.
Is it on your backlog?
It's on my backlog.
I own it.
Yeah, I think I might have bought it too, or at least I added it to my wish list. But anyway, it was fun. I think it set out to do exactly what it intended to do. And I don't really see a whole lot of flaws with it at all. So this is 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah. Orcs Must Die, like you said, good, fun, lighthearted game, which is honestly how I like my games. I don't like having to pay a ton of attention to a game when I'm playing it, in all honesty. So when it's lighthearted, when, you know, missing something or losing doesn't really negatively affect you, I enjoy that, and I like being able to play a game and then have a video or a movie on the side, and do two things at once, unless I'm playing multiplayer. But yeah, that being said, I really enjoyed it. I'm glad I played it. Which, you know, for me is a good barometer of where I want the game to be, because like I know a lot of scoring goes into like, oh, was it on a fundamental level? Was this a good game? But at the end of the day, all I really care about is was it fun or not, and it was. So I'll give it an 8 out of 10.
It's the goal of the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Be fun.
For some people.
Yeah, right.
Just make fun games.
Yeah, if everyone just tried to make a fun game, I think we'd be in a lot
Can't all
different
be
places.
We'd
Death
have more fun.
Strandings. Can't all be Strand type games.
We'd all have more fun with My Hero Academia.
I'm excited about that now.
Yeah, I'm glad. We tried to get you over for the beta, dude.
Yeah.
We were gonna set you up downstairs. It was gonna be awesome. We would have racked. But anyway, back to Orcs Must Die. Then more important pressing matters. I think one thing I didn't mention was probably I couldn't really play more than like 3 or 4 missions in a sitting. I don't know if you guys had the same problem as I did, but this wasn't a game that was like, oh, I'm gonna play this for 8 hours straight, like on a Saturday. I couldn't go more than like probably 2, maybe 3 hours at a time of like these types of missions. So it might have been a personal thing, but that was one thing that I do remember. Like it definitely broke up the game for me more than probably a lot of, linear story driven games that I'm usually used to. So that was a little bit of a different change of pace, quite literally, for me. But overall, loved the tower defense, loved what they did with the different play styles, as we mentioned, and for my personal play style of summoning minions and letting them handle all the grunt work while I could just maintain the path of overall higher level, running between doors and whatever, and being able to do that for what I enjoyed. I think it was a very fun game, and I had a lot of fun playing it through start to finish. I enjoyed the leaderboard system with your friends because I got to see John's name, and he's a lot better at video games than me. So, if I got higher than him on one specific level, it made me feel good.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Never going to have it. He's going to go back now after this and go double check him.
Is Nightmare Mode a different leaderboard?
It might
I don't think so. I think you just get more points for that.
So then you might.
So Jay's going to wipe up the leaderboard pretty soon?
I played on Xbox, so I didn't have any of the leaderboards.
Oh,
yeah, you played different.
Good.
Looking at the leaderboard though, I went back and I was looking today, and it's a pretty good spread. You're ahead in some, John's ahead in some, I'm ahead in a few.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
I think that has to do with the different play styles, right? Like some of the levels are catered towards different play styles.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, sorry to segue off of that, but I did enjoy that factor of the game, and so I give it a solid 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 too. I was on the 7.5, but I'm gonna bump it up to the 8 after
peer pressure.
No, after expressing how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah, what you said didn't mean anything or influence him at all, John.
Yeah, John. Fine. 7.5. Final verdict.
7.5.
Just to spite John at this point.
Just so he doesn't think he influenced you.
Which is, I guess, is influence, isn't it?
I don't know. Yeah, it influenced you one way and then influenced you back.
It was all me.
I would echo what you guys have said. I really enjoyed it. It was fun. I also agree with what you were saying. I played this one in bite-sized chunks, 3 or 4 levels at a time. And then I went back and I replayed some levels to upgrade my traps and my guardians. Really replayable. I also will probably go back at some point on a plane or an airport and just replay some of these levels, grind up my score, and then probably attempt Nightmare Mode and the DLC levels as well. It just felt like a really complete package. Campaign was 24 levels, and then there's another 5 or 6 DLC missions. You get a lot here. I really, the way I played it, I played it pretty passively. I didn't love I didn't get into the action elements of running around with the sorcerer and doing a lot of stuff. I kind of just like to sit back.
Yeah.
It really reignited my interest in the tower defense genre though. A game I really want to play after playing this one is Loop Hero. I think you've played Loop Hero, right, Jay?
Mm-hmm. This is fun.
It's kind of in the same vein, right?
Kind of.
Yeah, a little different.
Well, it's kind of the reverse. You set up the hazards for your hero to walk through, and then they gain better gear off of the hazards you set up.
Okay.
If they make it through.
Yeah. Overall, I liked it. I had fun
Reverse
with it.
tower defense.
I scored a 7 out of 10. Good game.
Nice.
So that's it for Orcs Must Die. Any other thoughts before we close this one out and we reveal, I think it's John's pick next?
Yeah.
It should be my pick, yeah.
All right. So we'll have our scores and we'll have a consolidated score. We're going to be somewhere around an 8, I think, based on that. But
Yeah. 8.5, 8, 7. So 7.75.
yeah, quick math. All right, John. Let us know what we're playing next.
Hyperlight Drifter.
Hyperlight Drifter.
Yep. I know
Never
basically
heard that game.
nothing about it other than I picked Solar Ash, which was by the same studio last year in Fantasy Critic League. And it looks interesting.
Okay. It's got a really unique art style to it.
What is it?
It's like a pixel thing, art style, right? It's like a pixel world.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's like an indie game that did well.
People talk about it a lot. Like I don't know what the game is, but I know that people liked it and it got a lot of buzz when it came out.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it. Did Donkey talk about it?
Probably, I don't know though.
I never saw a Donkey video on it,
He probably,
but maybe.
I bet it was in one of his Game of the Year videos. It seems like something he'd be into. All right, well, if you made it this far, thanks for listening. We've been the Giants of Backlog. If you enjoyed this episode, if you listened along, please give us a like, share our podcast with your friends, anybody you know who might be into this kind of deep dive analysis of these backlog games. Something we're going to incorporate into the show is at some point is viewer questions. You can email us at giantsofbacklog@gmail.com and ask us questions, share some comments, and we'll talk about them in the episodes. Follow us on social medias, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, maybe one day. But thanks so much for listening. We've been the Giants of Backlog. I'm Paul.
I'm Alec.
John.
Jay.
Thanks, guys.